Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope everyone's having a good day. Mine has been a busy day so far. Hello, Petty Deb. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is my turn to talk. Okay, we are going to get started. So let's go. All right. And I apologize for my lateness today, but it's that thing called traffic. So, anyway, today I want to talk about public proposals. Do they pressure women to say yes? Is it smart to propose in public? Can men take the rejection? Can women say no if they really want to? What are your thoughts? And hello, Crucible Man. I am of the opinion that you should never propose in public. You should never do anything if you expect a particular answer. Never propose in public, never propose in front of your family. Hello, SJ. Never propose in front of your family, never propose in front of your friends. No public proposals at all. Because number one, I do believe that they do put pressure on women to say yes, especially when you have a crowd going, say yes, say yes, say yes. Or you could risk someone like me who, if I want to say no, I will say no, and then the person will be upset. So that is my question for you guys today. Public proposals. What do you think? Have you ever been witness to a public proposal where you've been to a party or something, or someone in your family? What do you think? So um, that's my intro. And again, for all of you guys who are coming on now, I apologize. But as I said, it was that thing called traffic today, so I apologize. So, does anyone want to jump in? What is anyone's uh, opinion on public proposals? Do you think that you should or should not? Crucible Man, of course, you always have something to say. So you have the mic.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Crucible Man.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been a party to a public proposal. I might have been at a baseball game a long time ago when somebody had it up on the Jumbotron, but as a general rule, I don't really participate in those kinds of events willingly or unwillingly. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think anybody should, something that's that personal and that private. I mean, certainly after the fact, you want to share it with all of your friends and family. That's understandable. These days with social media, everybody's sharing everything from what they had for breakfast this morning to, the fact that they're stuck in traffic. And it's too much information. But during the actual event, I just think out of respect for your significant other, that those would be the kind of things you would not want to put them on the spot about, not just because of the risk of them saying no, although you have no business proposing publicly or privately if you haven't hashed that part of it out yet with your, with your significant other. I think there's a couple steps that got skipped. But, I think you should know your boyfriend or girlfriend, I guess in this case, girlfriend, well enough to know how they would respond, well enough to know, is this something that that would embarrass them? Are they public people? Are they private people? I just think it's unnecessary. And it strikes me as a lot of what we have these days is, look at me, I'm special, even though I'm doing something that millions of other people do every day and have done for generations. I'm special and I want everybody to look at me while I'm doing this. So I'm a private person. I don't go in for these public displays of lots of things, but I think for a gazillion different reasons, it seems to always be a bad idea.
Okay, now you bring up a couple of good points, but I want to ask you: do you think that it puts pressure on the woman or the man to say yes?
Yes, absolutely, it does. And who knows? We will never have the data for it, but I'm sure the number is bigger than a lot of people would have you know. I've seen, after the fact, I've seen videotapes of events where, not very many, but there's been a few where the woman just shook her head no. And people thought that she was kidding, that this was just a stunt. And it's hard to tell these days with social media what's real and what's not. But I have seen people, initially at least, shake their head no or say no. So who knows how many proposals have been made publicly, whether at a sporting event or at a party or someplace, where the woman has publicly said yes, either out of shock or embarrassment, and she just didn't have the nerve to say no publicly. Who knows how many of them unraveled, a day later or a week later, um, because now that we're home and we're behind closed doors, what in the F were you thinking, you moron? So I just think there's a lot of them that probably have come undone after the fact that just, you're not going to have a video of that up on the Jumbotron. When you get home, and you're not going to post that to Facebook, the fight you had with your girlfriend because you proposed to her without telling her about it first. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it always puts pressure when you do something in public.
Okay, so Petty Deb, if you would like to jump in on the conversation, and Eduardo Hernandez Gutierrez, welcome. So, I mean, do you think, and Crucible Man, you can answer this, or if anyone else, wants to jump in, you can. Um, uh, I want to know, do you think it would be different in terms of the proposal if it were in front of your family as opposed to like at a restaurant or at a party with your friends? Do you think it makes a difference?
Hard to say. It might be easier to do, in a stadium or at a sporting event where you're surrounded by 40,000 people you'll probably never see again, as opposed to around friends and family that know you really well. They know both people in the couple. They've probably spent, a lot of time around them. That would be tougher to live down, in my opinion, because it is a smaller group. It is a group that you know better than people at the baseball stadium. So it's risky either way. But I think in front of a bunch of strangers, it might seem more mortifying at the time, just because of the sheer number of people who might be reacting. But when you get out to the parking lot and get in your car, you're never going to see those people again. You are going to see your friends and family again. And I think that makes it a little dicier.
All right. So my next question is, you're saying that you're never going to see these people again, but what about that person? Because there's always one who's filming it and then they post it on social media. So which one is more mortifying, dealing with it in front of your family, or now you have this social media thing that's being seen by thousands, and you go to work the next day or go to school or whatever, and people are talking about it, so.
I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who go out of their way to do the peacock routine, the look at me routine. And if you're so obtuse that you're arranging for proposals and public displays and things like that, when your girlfriend is more than likely either going to say no or no for now, it's hard to have sympathy for people who make such a point of calling attention to themselves. And when you do that as a matter of lifestyle, it's just a matter of time before you're going to light an exploding cigar and something's going to blow up in your face and you're going to have to wear it. So I have a hard time working up a lot of sympathy for people who insist on living their lives in public, and then when it kind of blows up on them, what were you thinking? Did you not weigh the possible negative outcomes? So it's hard to feel sorry for people like that.
Okay, now Petty Deb says if you go public, you better be ready for the truth. And thank you for liking the show. Okay, so I agree with Petty Deb. You better, be ready, for the truth. But let's now look at the person who is being proposed to, male or female. So, we're talking about the jumbotrons. If you do it in public, or if you do it at home, in front of a family and friends. But instead of the embarrassment for the person who is doing the proposal, what about the person who is being proposed to? Do you think that is more mortifying for them in front of family and friends, or in front of, um, or in front of, in front of strangers, where once again, there's going to be that one person who has that cell phone who is going to be taping. So anyone can jump in. I know Crucible Man has the mic, but anyone else is welcome. So, Crucible Man, I'm gonna go back to you because no one else is coming on. So, what do you think?
Yeah,
If you have an opinion.
I think people again who make a point of advertising everything that they do. I don't know if those people are capable of being shamed or being
No, no, no,
embarrassed.
no, 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 no. I'm talking about the people who they're doing it to, like you're proposing to your girlfriend or whatever. What about her? Are you taking into consideration that she would feel bad, or she would be more embarrassed? I mean, do you think that that person who's being proposed to would be more embarrassed in front of strangers or in front of family and friends?
Well, I think it goes back to how well do you know the person you're, proposing to. I mean, that's a pretty serious step. You would think you've been in enough social situations with your girlfriend or boyfriend to know how they would react under certain circumstances. If you're at the point where you're talking about getting married, let's assume you've been together for, I don't know, let's say at least a couple of years. You've been in just about every kind of social setting by that point within reason. And, you go to friends of yours' weddings, you go to different events where couples are together, and you are in social situations where the woman will look over at the man or vice versa and say, if you ever do that to me, or if you dare ever propose to me in public, or if you ever did that to me. I mean, you have little examples throughout the course of your relationship that tells you how your partner feels about certain situations. And so you should have some sense of how they're going to respond, and out of respect for them. And you can't say, well, this is going to be different. She's really going to love this, even though you know deep down she's not going to love this. It's different because I'm proposing to her. She'll get a kick out of it, kind of a thing. And the whole thing ends up backfiring. So, yeah, I don't think enough men take it into account, or are caught off guard by a negative outcome. Your significant other has been telling you how they feel about these kinds of situations pretty much probably since you've been with them, if you've been paying attention. Or you just don't care and you decided, well, I'm going to do it this way now because it's going to be a surprise and she's going to get a kick out of it, and blah blah blah. I don't think you ever want to put somebody in a position like that, because it's just not fair. Something of that magnitude, something so personal, I think just out of respect, you have to handle it a little more privately.
All right. Now, they also say, I was reading an article where they say true romance or unwanted coercion. And do you think that, and again, do you think that you do know the person that you've been dating, or whatever, for a couple of years or whatever, and you may have talked about it and that person's just not ready to get married and you are? So do you think that some of these public proposals, and again, anyone can jump in, do you think these proposals are more of a coercion to, well, I know we've talked about it and they say they're not ready to get married, but I am. But if I, do it in public or in front of my family or whatever, then they'll say yes. And even if they say yes, that doesn't mean that when you get home, they're going to turn around and say, no, I'm not marrying you. I'm breaking up now because you've pissed me off. But do you think that it is a coercion? Anybody?
Yeah, it can certainly be seen as that, especially if you've had some private conversations about the future and your significant other, sort of telegraphs to you how they feel about a future together, whether it's now or 2 or 3 years from now. Um, so you should have been picking up on those kinds of signals, and maybe somebody runs out of patience. They're tired of waiting. That certainly would not be anything new, and they feel like they can force somebody's hand by making a public spectacle out of it. I can't believe somebody would be that short-sighted or that selfish or that stupid to not think eventually, the chickens are going to come home to roost on that one, even if it's not right at this minute. It will be in another hour or 2 hours or whenever you get, alone with that person, you're going to hear about it. So I do think there probably are some people who try to force somebody's hand by making a public display of something like that. But I can't imagine that coercion lasts more than, a couple hours, a couple of days. Once people have had a chance to kind of get their feet under them again, they start to think, more clearly. And you're either ready to get married to somebody or you're not. It doesn't matter if you've asked them in front of 40,000 people or in front of four. Either they're ready or they're not. So the coercion thing is a very short-lived strategy, I think.
Okay, so let's talk about the rejection side of it. Who do you think can take rejection more, men or women? And I'm not just talking about if you're proposing in public or something like that. I'm just talking about just in a relationship in general. Who do you think can take rejection better? Do you think that if guys are usually put on the spot where they're always the one, if they like someone or if you're at a party, whatever, they're always the one saying, can I ask you to dance? Can I have your phone number? They're always the ones making the first move. Okay, but you also have some women out there who also make the first move, or they like a particular person and they're doing something for this person, but that person just isn't into them. So, in terms of a relationship or a potential relationship, who do you think can take rejection better? I personally think men can take rejection better. I think women sometimes we get a little catty, um, uh, but you know, anybody want to jump in on this one? Who do you think can take rejection better? Either with a proposal or just going out, just liking the person, whatever.
Yeah, you make a good point. Men are the ones where the ball is in their court. They have to make the first move to ask somebody on a date, ask somebody to dance, ask anything, even though it's different in 2021 than it was, 30 or 40 years ago. Women are a lot more independent and they're a lot more, I don't want to say aggressive necessarily, but if they know what they want, they're not afraid of demonstrating it. So I don't know that it's so much a gender thing. It really boils down to the individual, I guess. But men are used to being rejected. They are used to negative outcomes. I don't know if you ever get used to it or not. It depends on how serious you are about somebody as far as how bad the rejection is. But they are used to being rejected, and I think women, just because of the way our society has always been set up, women are the pursued. Although I know today it's different, and they can also be the pursuers, and I don't think anybody minds that. I think men like the fact that women are pursuers, and they don't have to do all the heavy lifting. But women do, as a result of that, I think, get lulled into a false sense of security that they can't be rejected, or it's just men are I don't want to say desperate, but men, they'll settle for anyone kind of thing. And there's a lot of truth to that. But I mean, there's a lot of truth to that for both sexes. But, I think women lull themselves into thinking, there's no way this person's going to reject me because I'm a woman, he's a man. He'll take whatever he can get, kind of a thing. Not that you're settling or anything like that, but I think women take it harder just because it happens less frequently.
Okay. All right. So again, I don't want people to think that this conversation is just between me and Crucible Man. You guys are welcome to take the mic. If you want. Does anyone have an opinion on anything that we've been talking about? Anything that Crucible Man just said, or anything that I said? I don't want anyone to think, yes, and Crucible Man is saying, yes, speak up. So even, if you want to chat, whatever, but I really would be interested to know, what other people think. So please don't think that this is just a conversation between the two of us, because it is not. So let's go to my next part of my question then, about, in terms of, well, let's not even talk about the proposals, but I am talking about things done in public, again, either in front of strangers or in front of families and friends. Do you think that women, can say no? And again, I'm someone who, I will say no. I mean, I will. No, I'm not someone that is easily put on the spot, no matter what it is, from family, friends, strangers, whatever. My answer is my answer, and that's it. But do you think that people have a hard time, not just women, do you think people have a hard time saying no? And if so, why? Anybody? 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 Crucible Man, you want to take that one?
Yeah, what's the question? Women have a hard time saying no.
Okay, I went through that whole thing and you weren't even listening.
No, what? I was listening. I was.
No, I'm saying, in terms of just saying no, do you think that people have a hard time saying no, whether it be men or women? Do you think people just have a hard time saying no to something that they really want to say no to, that they are allowing, people allow themselves to be put on the spot, be it from family, or friends, or, if you're in front of strangers, that people allow themselves to be put on the spot?
Yeah, I think basically we're all, for the most part, we're all pretty decent human beings, um, and I think we have compassion and we have. And we've all been in a situation where we've been rejected. I mean, there's nobody walking the earth over the age of 21 who hasn't been rejected, probably on many occasions. So I think having been in that situation, you have a little more empathy for the other person. You don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to let them down. So I think people do tend to want to make people feel good and not embarrass them. And a lot of times in these situations, whether it's a public proposal or any kind of a public thing, I'm not saying people go into shock, shock in the sense that they're literally and genuinely in shock in a medical sense, but they're overcome and they're overwhelmed, and their first thought is, oh bleep, I can't believe this is happening. And then they try to regain their footing. They try to gather their thoughts, and it may take until the next day, or it may take until several hours later before you've had the chance to fully absorb what's happened, and only then can you react to it in a normal way. But I think it's twofold. People are genuinely overwhelmed and caught off guard. They don't know how to react, or they're trying to help the other person save face by showing some empathy, knowing full well when the lights go off and everybody goes home, we're going to have a different conversation.
Okay, and again, I'm not just talking about proposals here. Petty Deb says the older I get, the easier it is to say no. And for me, I've never had a problem with saying no. I've always been of the opinion that, ask if you have something you want to ask someone, the most someone can tell you is no. The answer is either yes, you can do it, or no, you can't, whatever. But when you put someone on the spot, and again, I'm getting away from the proposal thing. Are you? I mean, you're pretty much forcing someone to answer a difficult question or make a decision about something right now and right there. You want that answer. And again, like I said before, I'm the type of person who, if you ask me something or think that you're being funny or you think you're being slick, that, well, I'm going to ask you in front of this person because then she'll say yes, or her answer will be no. My answer is going to be what I probably told you before when you asked me, whatever. So, should we, if you know that someone is purposely putting you on the spot for something, should you worry about their feelings? Should you care? Because they chose to put you on the spot, so why not put them back on the spot? So anyone? And Petty Deb, I saw you wanted to speak, and I hoped I was able to open up your mic. So you can come back on. Let me send another invite to you. And you can come on when you're ready. And let's see. Crucible Man says, what goes around comes around. Okay, so so I mean, in terms of like worrying about someone's feelings and what have you, yeah, you can worry about their feelings, but I think that if someone is putting you on the spot, and you kind of know when someone is intentionally doing it, and that's when I say, like Crucible Man just said, what goes around, it's like, if you're going to do this to me, I'm going to do this for you. And Crucible Man, thank you for liking the show. So, okay, Petty Deb, you are not able to get on. So anybody else want to answer that one? Okay, got it, Petty Deb. Okay, so Crucible Man, you want to take that one? Petty Deb is not coming on right now.
What's the question again? I am listening.
You are not listening. You are not listening. So if you're going to ask what the question is, and I know I am going on, you are not listening. Just putting people on the spot. If you know someone is putting you on the spot, should you really care about their feelings?
No, they clearly don't care about yours. That's what I meant by what goes around comes around. You can't, and you get into a situation where there's no mutual respect anymore, and it doesn't really matter what the seriousness of the topic is, or if it's something like, well, where should we go to dinner, and you're putting somebody on the spot. That's not a particularly consequential question, but sometimes people feel pressure to answer in front of other people for whatever reason. I think you should always err on the side of caution, err on the side of just stopping a little bit short of where you might want to go. I just think you owe it to people. You give them as much opportunity to operate with dignity and decorum, and you can't be selfish about it. You can't be impatient, and you can't be selfish, because nobody likes being put on the spot, and you can get more of a negative reaction. Kind of be careful what you wish for by putting people on the spot. You think, well, I'm going to control the outcome here because I'm going to force the action. And people don't like to be coerced. They don't like to feel like they're being backed into a corner or they're put in a position where the decision's being made for them. I mean, those almost always turn out poorly. So I think you kind of get what you deserve. If that's your tack and you're either impervious or indifferent to the outcome, or you're genuinely just, obtuse, you kind of deserve what you get, is my feeling.
And I would agree with that. And hello, Judy Tobin says it's an intimate discussion, so cringy, unless it's specifically what you both want. And she is probably talking about just the question public proposals. But every day, people are put on the spot, you know, and I think that when people do it, it's an intentional. I mean, because you wouldn't do it. I mean, sometimes it could be by accident, but I think for most of the time, I think people intentionally put people on the spot. And once again, I'm going to take it back to, and again, I'm not talking about the proposals. I'm just saying, if you put someone on the spot, the person who's doing it, do you think they can get away with it more in front of family and friends or in front of strangers? So, hello, feisty one, and hello, shy lady, and DYY97R. So that's my next question. If you put someone on the spot and you're the person doing it, do you think that is they think they can get away with it in front of friends and family, or in front of strangers? Anybody want to take that one? Anybody?
Well, I think anytime somebody is acting in a way that's kind of self-absorbed, or they're trying to force an outcome that they otherwise known that that person left to their own devices, they wouldn't get that outcome. They would get a different outcome. So they, excuse me, they count on either the peer pressure or they count on the environment as being their ally, and they lose sight of the longer run, which means the moment's going to end at some point. The public moment is going to end at some point, and you're going to be in a private moment, and you may be regretting that public moment once you get into the private moment, because then you're going to hear what that person really felt about the situation. So I think I think it runs the risk of just showing an insensitive and kind of a selfish side.
Okay, all right. I want to pick up on something you said, but Shy Lady, you have entered the room, and I'm sure Crucible Man is happy about that. So, Miss Shy Lady, what do you have to say?
Well, hello everybody. Uh, I know the topic is about public proposals. My husband actually proposed to me in public at a restaurant, which I was very surprised because he's not the type that cares what anyone thinks. So I think he was doing it. I think because he thought I might like it, that I might want the grandiose occasion and everybody looking at me. That's what I think. Because he had been married before, and I don't think it was a bigger deal for him as it was for me. So I say all that to say that I think the public proposal depends on the person as well, because like I said, we had been probably in a relationship for 4 years, so I don't think he really cared about who saw him or whatever. He knew I was going to say yes, but I really don't think he cared one way or the other. He just did it for me.
Okay, so if he wasn't sure of your answer, do you think he would have done it in public?
I think he still would have done it. But he, like I said, I know he knew that I wanted to get married. So he didn't care. Like I said, it was for me. I think that he did it because he wanted me to feel the attention, all eyes on me kind of thing. He wanted me to feel that because it wasn't about him at all. It was about me. And so
Okay,
like yeah, that was my situation.
Okay, so shy lady, let me ask this, and again, anyone who wants to jump in, you're more than welcome. So, do you think that men can take rejection better than women? And I'm not talking about necessarily with proposals. I'm just talking about just in a relationship period. Do you think men take rejection better, women take rejection better? Just if they say, can I have your phone number? Do you want to dance? Whatever.
I would have to say that for the most part, men do not take rejection well.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
just based on all the abuses that women go through. I just was seeing in the newspaper, not newspaper. I don't read the paper, but online news rather. Men getting rejected and killing women because they didn't want to, be in a relationship with them. I think women can be petty at times when they sometimes stalk a man or slash tires and all that kind of stuff. But I think for the most part, women get over it and move on. But men, it's almost like it's an attack on their personal, their person. It's like really personal when they feel they're rejected. I think in most cases, I don't think women take it that seriously.
Okay. So you bring up an interesting point because I actually think that women cannot take rejection better than men. I think women, because we can get catty, and we do. Well, not me, but women do the stalking thing. It's like um, I think women, sometimes can even be scarier than men when it comes to rejection.
I think it's a.
Um,
I don't mean to cut you off or anything, but I want to say this. I know what you're saying, and I totally agree. I think that women can be very petty if they put a lot of time into the relationship. Let's say months or years, and then all of a sudden they get rejected, or a man decides to marry another woman. Then they can get very petty. But I'm talking about like men that are approach a woman. It's happened to me on several occasions, and my daughter has told me the same thing. A perfect stranger approaches you in a club or bar or whatever, and you refuse to give them your number, and they get very hostile. That's the kind of
okay.
rejection I'm talking about. Perfect stranger, men can't handle the rejection. That's what I'm talking about. And like I think that women can be very petty when it's a long-term relationship, and when the man breaks up with them, they can be very vicious. So I think it depends on the circumstances.
Okay, all right. You make a very good point. Does anyone want to pick up from what Shy Lady said, or what Crucible Man said? Crucible Man, I hope you are listening. So does anyone um, articulate it on the point? That's what Petty Deb says. Okay, um, articulate it on point. I'm sorry. So anyone want to pick up on what Shy Lady said? Crucible Man? Anybody? Anybody? All right. So, um, what about your boss? Okay, so let's talk about your boss. You are at work and you're doing your job, whatever, and you all are in a meeting. You're in a group meeting, department meeting, whatever, and your boss puts you on the spot in terms of either um, something they want you to do, or even something that you did and they don't feel you did it right, and they put you on the spot. Do you respond? Would your response be the same if it was someone you knew who put you on the spot, or because it's your boss, do you respond differently? And do you hold them? Do you allow them to put you on the spot, or would you kind of back them up and say, "Well, hold on, you asked me to do this, and I did it this and this way, whatever." Do you call your boss out? Do you allow them to go there with you? Anybody?
always difficult to call your boss out on anything. I mean, it depends on the kind of relationship that you have. It depends on your performance. Um, it depends on what the personality types are. But if you're working for somebody who puts you on the spot, particularly, I'm guessing that would be in front of other coworkers. Putting somebody on the spot always runs the risk of embarrassing them, whether you're asking them a question that they're unprepared for, or dragging them up in front of the room to participate in a skit or whatever it happens to be. Anytime you're around your peers or you're around your bosses, and we're all being judged. So to be put on the spot by your boss, again, it depends on the relationship. I was fortunate enough at a couple different companies to work for the same person who was also a friend of mine, and we would tease each other about things that would be construed maybe as putting somebody on the spot, but we knew each other really well, and nobody was ever embarrassed by it. But that's a very rare set of circumstances. So I think anytime you put anybody on the spot, you must know deep down that there's a pretty good chance that they're either going to be embarrassed or they're not going to come across looking as good as they would like. You always want to put people in their best light, that where they have the chance to shine as opposed to struggle. So when it's your boss, I don't think you run the risk of calling them out. Like I said, if you have a good boss and you know they're going to take a good-natured ribbing, then maybe you give it right back to them. But I would think most people don't have the kind of relationships with their bosses where they're comfortable pushing back, at least publicly.
That's interesting, Crucible Man, that you say that. Now, Petty Deb says, if you are my boss, you get what you get. Okay. Feisty One says a certain level of professionalism should be maintained at the workplace. And she also says it's the manner in which calling it is done. Okay. Now, all of you make valid points, but I do believe that the workplace now has changed. And I think that people in general they have changed. I think that you have people who, you have bosses that, for the lack of a better term, they're assholes. Whether you're in a restaurant or you're working in a corporate office, whatever, you have people in the workplace who are bosses who are not very good bosses. And I do believe that you should be respectful and professional. But if a boss is putting you on the spot, and it's something that is embarrassing you, why should you not push back? And yes, you probably have to do it in a certain way, but shouldn't you push back just to let that boss know you may have tried it this time, but you won't try it the next time? Anybody? Because I've had bosses that they want to push. And Christiane, by the way, welcome. Christiane says, I went to my school board and maybe I can share my experience. Okay, I will give you the mic. I'll send you an invite. But does anyone want to respond to what I just said while we're waiting for Christiane to come on? Hopefully we can unmask the kids, or unmask kids. Okay, I for one am one for mask, but I'm willing to hear what you have to say. This is an open forum. As long as everyone stays respectful, everyone has an opinion. So does anyone want to say anything while we're waiting for Christiane to come on?
Yeah, I think everybody wants, I'm assuming everybody wants a positive outcome from whatever exchange they're having with whoever they're having it with, whether it's your boss or whether it's a subordinate, whether it's a peer or a coworker. So I think you always want to have the circumstances be as favorable as possible to get the outcome that you want. And I don't know that putting people on the spot or calling people out or catching them off guard generates a lot of goodwill. I don't know that it generates a lot of good outcomes. So what, you have to ask yourself, what's the end game here? What's the goal? Am I looking for a favorable outcome, or am I looking to embarrass somebody, or am I looking to get some revenge on somebody for putting me in a similar situation at some point? I mean, it depends on what your motivation is and what you are trying to accomplish. But to me, if you're looking for positive outcomes, you want to put everybody involved in the best possible position to get that positive outcome. And I don't think putting people on the spot necessarily does that.
Okay, all right, you have a good point. And Christiane, she dropped off, so we will keep going. Does anyone want to respond to anything else or what Crucible Man said? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, well then I am going to keep going, and I would like to know what do you think is the definition of putting someone on the spot? I mean, do you think that one person may think that it's one thing and someone else can think that it's something else? Anyone? Crucible Man, I know you want to say something, so go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think putting somebody on the spot necessarily. Actually, I'm Charlie. Lady's asking what the question was again.
You and this question thing today, I don't think you're listening.
I am listening. He's asking what the question is, not me. Yeah, like I said, I don't think putting people on the spot is ever a good idea. I think if you're trying to make light of something, or if the people involved know each other well enough that you can make it lighthearted and you can turn. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can use humor these days, but a lot of times people don't see the humor when they're the target. It's the old, when you're on the playground and everybody's laughing at one of the kids and you're joining in, and it's all fun and games, and then all of a sudden it turns around and now you're in the middle of the circle, and you're the one being poked fun of, and suddenly it's not so much fun. So I mean, it depends on the setting, it depends on who else is there. Can you make a joke out of it? But I think when you put somebody on the spot, you're even subconsciously, you're probably trying to make them look bad, because that's the only real explanation that I can come up with, is when you put somebody on the spot, you're putting them on the spot. Nobody likes to be put on the spot. Again, it depends on who else is in the room, and how high the stakes are as far as being embarrassed. But to my way of thinking, people who put people on the spot are doing so for a reason, and that reason is probably not a positive one.
Okay, so we have 2 points here. Feisty One says, good point. If you feel like you are the butt of the joke, it doesn't feel good and can make things spiral out of control. Petty Deb says, douchebags move to put people on the spot. It is bullying behavior. That's interesting. Does anyone want to respond to that? Do you think that people who put people on the spot, they are bullies? And so, Petty Deb, I have to ask, does that include people who are, and now I'm going back to the proposal thing. Does that include people who are proposing in public? And again, I'm going to use this scenario. You've talked about getting married. The person doesn't want to get married. You still pull out that ring in front of friends, family, strangers, whatever. Are you being a bully? So, anybody? Okay, I got yes, yes, and yes, but I'm wondering if it's yes to all components of the question. Shy Lady says it's passive aggressive. All right, there are many that don't like the public displays. Okay, I for one don't. So, no. And Petty Deb says that it's situational. All right. Okay. So, but all of you all, so is it one? Do all of you all agree then that for the most part, people who put people on the spot are bullies? And I don't mean, mean bullies or whatever, but it's kind of, you're trying to push people to do certain things, it's a bit of bullying behavior. And GP Man 45 says, don't get engaged, problem solved. Okay. So, uh, and Crucible Man says, good one. So, anybody want to respond to any of the comments that we just have? Anybody? Some people like the attention, Shy Lady says.
Yeah,
So, okay,
I
wait,
think it,
hold on one moment, Crystal Man. So, Shy Lady, when you say some people like the attention, are you talking about the people who are putting the people on the spot, or they
I'm
are trying? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm talking about the people on the receiving end. I've watched basketball games, football games, professional, and the athlete proposes to his girlfriend in front of tens of thousands of people in the stadium. Um, Maybe that's publicity for him, and I'm sure she probably loved all the adoration and all of that, the applause. So I think it depends on the person, the circumstances, and I think for the most part people talk about engagements. It's usually not a surprise. Usually not. They've looked at rings or they've talked about marriage. So sometimes people usually have an idea that sooner or later they're going to get married. But I don't really see the person as being like a bully. I don't really
Okay.
see it. I don't really see it that way because to me, if you have signs like that, that this person is somebody you probably wouldn't want to marry, then I don't think they would run the risk of embarrassing themselves.
All right. Okay. You bring up a point that people have talked about it. You may have looked at rings or what have you. But does that still mean that you want your significant other to propose to you in public? That you looked at rings and you know that he's going or she is going to propose soon, whatever. But do you necessarily want it in public?
For me, when it happened to me, I was a little bit embarrassed because I felt like the people that were around me didn't know me, and I was actually surprised that he proposed in public. I really was, but he knew I was going to say yes either way. But I was kind of surprised, and for the people that were in the restaurant clapping, they didn't know me, so it was like no big deal to me. Now,
Okay.
had my family been there, then it probably would have been a different situation. I probably would have been more elated because, like I said, it was just basically he and I there. So
Okay. All right. And Feisty One says it can be a source of pressure or bullying. All right. So, Crucible Man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off before. What were you going to say?
no, I think bullies have a specific outcome. I don't know that I would necessarily equate putting somebody on the spot with bullying. Bullying in my world has a more sinister connotation. Putting somebody on the spot can just be insensitivity, obtuseness, a lack of self awareness. There could be some ulterior motive there. They could be looking to embarrass somebody. But when I think about bullying, I think about cruelty. I think about really mean spiritedness and hurtfulness. Um, I don't know for sure that that's an exact correlation to putting somebody on the spot. A lot of times it can just be clumsiness, poor social graces. There's a litany of things that it could be attributed to, but I would probably stop short of calling it bullying because you also run the risk of sort of diluting the whole bullying concept when embarrassing somebody or putting somebody on the spot in public constitutes bullying. Then pretty soon everything is bullying and nothing is bullying. So I didn't mean to take the conversation off in that direction, but I think bullying would be a little bit strong for my taste.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say, GP Man 45, thank you for coming and listening to the show. Okay, and Shiley says, I agree, bullying is mean spirited. So let's take the proposal out of it. Let's take the proposal out of it. And you brought up bullying because I do want to go back to putting people on the spot. And we did say that it could be you could be a bully if you're putting people on the spot. So, but people who intentionally, and I'm not talking about proposals now, people who intentionally put you on the spot. It could be your friend. It could be a member of your family. It could be someone you work with. If someone intentionally puts you on the spot, and again, take the public proposal out of it, is that a type of being a bully? Because you're pushing, to me, when you put someone on the spot, you are pushing someone to answer a question like right then and right now, and you're putting that pressure on them to respond a certain way, and usually you want them to respond the way you want them to. So is that a type of bullying? Anybody?
I I don't know if it could be a form of bullying, but I think it's also petty. And I've been in the workplace where I've seen people say and do things that make another person look bad because they may be jealous of the accolades they get. So I don't know if that's a form of bullying or not. But I have been in situations where I did have a coworker to try to make me look bad in front of a manager, and
Okay.
I didn't think it was. I didn't really think her behavior was being a bully. I thought it was just jealousy because the
Okay.
manager favored me over her, and she would have done anything to try to make me look bad because she didn't like me. I just thought it was being jealous.
Okay. All right. And you make a good point there. Okay. So this has been an interesting conversation, but I'm going to wrap it up by asking, do in as a rule, I do not allow people to put me on the spot, like I've said. As a rule, do you guys push back, or do you usually let things slide if people put you on the spot? I mean, do you just go along and then whatever, or does it matter? Depend on what it is, depend on who it is. Do you guys, and Petty Deb says it is situational again. So um anybody else, does anyone allow them to allow people to put you on the spot, where you want to say no to something? Try to be a good sport if possible. In the workplace, I ignored it, and I am learning to push back more. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yes, many folks have workplace trauma, what GP Man says. All right. Well, guys, once again, thank you very much. I apologize for starting 15 minutes late, but I was in that thing called California traffic. So I apologize. But thank you so much. And again, our conversations don't necessarily stay on track, they tend to veer off. But I appreciate everyone coming on. Always speak your truth. I am Solid Blue Sister. This is my turn to talk, and everyone have a very nice day. Thank you. And GP Man, a lot of people do have workplace drama. I think more so now than anything else. And Crucible Man, thank you. It was a good show today. You put in a lot of participation. Shy Lady, Feisty One, Jimbo, L Perks, all of you, thank you so much. Petty Dev, DYY97R, thank you all for hanging out today. And I will be on time tomorrow. That I will tell you. And let's see. Tomorrow I want to talk about should children have a say in whom they their parents marry, be they young people or older people, or I'm sorry, younger kids or older adults. I'd like to know that too. So thank you. Let's see what we have here. All right. Goodbye, Crucible Man. Everyone, wherever you are in the country or in the world, thank you so much. But I love it when people come on and take the mic, you guys. You gotta take the mic more. So no shyness here. It's all good. We can agree to disagree. So again, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.